Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect like that.
Yeah.
So if you could just first introduce yourself, the name of your restaurant, and then a little bit about your story.
I'm Ashok Bajaj. I'm the owner of Knightsbridge Restaurant Group.
Check it
Then I met a business partner when I was in London, but he was Australian. He suggested, let's go to America. And I said, I've never been to America. But I really wanted to stay in London or in Europe. And here I am 32 years later. Okay, so I came here, I went to New York, I went to San Francisco, another part of the country, visiting where I want to do my first restaurant. And Washington was my last stop. And I like Washington. Washington was a magical city, reminded me in some way of being in New Delhi, or in London. I always lived in capital. And I decided to open Bombay Club, which was my first restaurant. And here, this is the latest addition to the group called Annabelle. And so this was, very known organic restaurant owned by Nora Pullian. And when she wanted to sell it, so I approached her to buy the restaurant, and so here I am. I have a very wonderful chef in the kitchen called Frank Rutter, who is the White House chef for 3 presidents, and he worked for Carter, Reagan, and Bush Senior, and he's an amazing chef. But I just don't want to add restaurants just to add restaurants. If something come along, which it speaks good to me, and I think I have an idea which I can add something to the community, I will do it. Okay, and that's how Annabelle came along, because Nora was an iconic restaurant, an iconic building, and when I was thinking about this, I never in wildest dream thought Nora would sell this. But when this came along, and I said, wow, Nora did a great job, and it has been the house for a lot of presidents here and important people. And I said, and it was an important restaurant in the city, first organic restaurant. And then I said, okay, well, I can add something to the community. So when I do something now, where I am in my professional life, I'm going to see what can I add to the community, to the society, for their well-being, and that plays an important role. See, when people come in here, yes, they come in for food, but you also want them to think what's on the walls. Okay, is food is important. My chefs are wonderful. They put art on the plate. Mm-hmm. So when you look at this, you say, wow, is it edible? Yes, it is. Okay, but then also when they look around the environment, it has to make them feel good. When you're eating there, when you're dining there, it should enrich you in many ways. Food can enrich you, looking at art and thinking and getting lost for 3 hours in different thoughts. 4 rooms. 3 rooms are here on the first floor. So each room represents different. This is I call it a garden room. This is my favorite room. And then in the 2 main dining rooms, we have 2 different artists. We have Cara Tomlinson's work, who's from the West Coast, and then we have a local. I wanted to showcase local artists. And he says Frank Day will be the perfect work, and then I saw his work, and his works almost talks to me. I mean, the vibrant color. I know this series is called Ship Hull, and anybody who walks up here, and they obviously loves the colors, and it complements the room, and it makes you uplift, when you're dining here. And I'm very proud to display his work here. And the goal in this gallery is to display the work of local artists going forward, up and coming local artists, so we can promote them as well.
That's perfect. Thank you.
I'm lucky enough to have some very special pieces in collection of my restaurants and at home. So I mean, I don't go after one artist, though I have a friend, Robert Brown, whom I met in London when I used to live in London, and he introduced me to all of Kudrow pieces. And Ole Kudrow was living in London those days, and I used to go and for the gallery openings, and of course I couldn't afford in my his pieces. His pieces was very expensive those days. Well, they're still are. Okay. But then when I came here, Robert was carrying his work, and then I said, I know this work, and so he introduced me to his work, and every time. I was thinking about, I need some modern art, but and those colors and Kudrow pieces are really beautiful, and so I have them in my restaurants. I have them in my office as well as. This piece is Oleg Kudrow, who is a Russian artist. He's a very important artist. So I saw his work in London, and this was one of his very first pieces when he was doing the three-dimensional paintings in the 90s. Not many people were doing it, and I was introduced this piece to me by a friend of mine, Robert Brown, who owns a gallery here. And it's vibrant colors. It's different textures on the painting, and it represents well when you're walking into Annabelle.